as you are thinking about the resources that you want to create in 2026 and list on Teachers Pay Teachers, you may want to think about some trends in education that will influence teacher buyer activity. And I'm going to give you 10 trends in education that I think will affect how teachers are purchasing in 2026 and beyond. And these may give you some good ideas for resources that you want to create, or how you might need to edit your resources to match these trends. The first one is some new accessibility laws that are going into place that are specifically related to digital resources, but can also affect the way that we upload our printable PDF resources. So specifically, there are some laws going into place, and I'm just going to kind of read this off here, that require PDFs that are maybe displayed on a board, or maybe they are given to students via Google Classroom, that they be screen reading friendly. So if a person, has a vision impairment, they may need to have the text on that PDF read to them if they can't see it clearly. And so some things that you want to think about are really easy to read fonts, a clear heading structure in your PDFs. And this is really important if you have like notes and worksheets that a teacher may give to a student digitally, not saving text as an image and then uploading that image into the PDF, but actually having actual text there. All of these things are really important. There are some other things that you can do as far as having alt text on images, having a tagged PDF. And I actually went to ChatGPT once I saw these laws and said, okay, what are some things I need to do to make my PDFs accessible according to these new laws under Title II? So definitely Google it or ChatGPT it. I do think that having high contrast, so white on black, is important. Dyslexia friendly fonts, easy to read fonts. All of this has always been important, but it's going to be even more important now with these new laws going into place. The second trend I am seeing is science of reading is getting really big. Reading scores have dropped, and so a lot of states are really focusing on science of reading resources. So if you are ELA, focusing on that in your resources. And from my research, I'm not an ELA creator, but from my research, the phrase science of reading is not copyrighted or trademarked. So it can be used in titles and on your cover photos and in descriptions for SEO, for keywords. So adding that into your resource, because teachers might be looking for that as schools push that to help, have an early intervention for reading to get those test scores up. The third trend, and this has been a trend for a while, but I think it's going to continue to get worse, is budget constraints with schools. Teachers are not getting, you may not ever get money. I didn't get any money for resources, but some schools were giving teachers money for resources on Teachers Pay Teachers or otherwise. And that may be getting even worse. As teachers, we know we don't get a lot, but that might be going down. So focusing on making sure you're listing resources for around $3 is my recommendation. You can test like dollar resources as kind of a marketing technique, but that $3 spot is a good sweet spot. Then you can always make product lines and bundles, and I do recommend that because there will still be teachers and schools buying those bundles, especially if they buy a single resource from you that is high quality. But just making sure, I see this within our Resource Academy members, they'll go ahead and put like the whole big unit as one resource that's, like $30 or more. I recommend breaking that up into smaller resources and then using Teachers Pay Teachers bundle tool to bundle a product line together. Another trend that I'm seeing, this is trend number 4, are bans on phones. So if you have resources that use QR codes, I don't think that those are going to be used as often. I do think schools are really cracking down, as they should be, in my opinion, on phones. So anything that is device related or phone related, I would not continue to make those, and I would maybe go back and update your resources to include other options. You don't have to take off QR codes completely, but maybe if you have QR heavy resources, making a duplicate of that and taking the QR code off so that teachers have both options when phones are banned. Another thing that I'm seeing, another trend, this is trend number 5. We know that AI is getting crazy, y'all. And AI is making it very easy to quickly create, I would say, lower quality resources. I don't think that AI is to the point yet where it can make extremely high quality resources like an educator with experience can. So what that means is I think with the introduction of AI, teachers are going to be extra skeptical of resources. So it's more important now than ever to have high quality resources and you're not relying on AI to make them. I do think that AI is a good tool for creators. I think that it can help you more quickly create resources, but don't rely on it 100% or even like 50% or more. Use it as a tool, but also mainly rely on your expertise as a content teacher, as a homeschool teacher to create these resources. Now, on the flip side of that, I do think that in kind of the social studies area of schools, that they will be talking about AI and maybe having lessons on AI. So creating some AI lessons, like how to use AI appropriately when writing a paper. So I think this is going to be good for like social studies ELA teachers, upper elementary all the way through high school. So having some lesson plans surrounding that, because I do think that teachers are going to start talking about it with their kids in school. I think that that would be a good way to incorporate AI, is teaching kids how to appropriately use AI in the classroom. Another trend is interactive resources. I do think that this has been a trend for a while, but I think with the introduction of AI and with, kids getting phones younger and younger, they need resources that aren't going to be boring. They want resources that are interactive. And I do think that a lot of schools do have access to technology, whereas they're banning phones. I do think that they are having access to computers in a majority of schools. I don't know, a majority. I don't have a percentage for you, but that's just my anecdotal evidence. So I do think that digital resources, interactive resources are still going to be a hot seller in 2026. So, interactive Google Sheets, interactive Google Slides, digital escape rooms, things like that will still be very important in 2026 because they keep kids' attention. Not saying that the printable is going away. Printables are still my number one seller, but we do teach a lot of teachers in our program how to make digital resources, and a lot of teachers are seeing a lot of sales from those. So interactive is here to stay. Okay, another trend that I am seeing is a push towards real world tasks, especially in math and science. How does this relate to the real world? A lot of STEM-based, project-based learning. So if you are in one of those STEM niches, having more project-based, real-world application type resources, I think is going to be really important. I do think that schools are seeing those types of resources are more valuable than just kind of a skill and drill resource. So looking into that. And that also leads me into my next trend, which would be data literacy and really focusing on financial literacy. A lot of states are, I actually asked ChatGPT this, Texas, Colorado, Kentucky, they have passed legislation to require financial literacy education for high school students. So a financial literacy unit or course would be amazing. And this is like, budgeting, investing, more real world type learning will be really important in 2026. I do feel like those two trends kind of go together, the project-based and then the financial literacy. But because that legislation is passing or has passed, I think that's going to be really important. Another kind of trend as far as new legislation, in California, they have required youth mental health content in their standards. So social emotional learning, any type of mental health unit, that will be great for like counselors. If you are a school counselor and you're creating resources for other counselors, I think that will be a great kind of thing to focus on in 2026. But even outside of the counseling niche, I feel like you can really incorporate this into any grade level or subject area. So I think that will be a really good idea. There are some standard changes with a few other states. So Georgia is getting new ELA standards. Virginia is changing some of their standards in reading and math. Maryland is changing their math standards and kind of like how they are doing their math. And again, I use ChatGPT to find a lot of this. So you can go to ChatGPT and say, okay, what standards are changing in 2026 and how can I create resources to fit that need? Okay, another trend that I am seeing, and I actually lost count here, I don't know what number I'm on, but another trend that I think is really, really big, this may be the biggest trend, is homeschool and hybrid schooling. I think that that is going to be huge in 2026. So putting those keywords in your titles and in your descriptions if you're a homeschool or a hybrid school teacher, talking about your experience and your expertise in that area is going to be huge. I know that TPT has traditionally been for, public school educators and private school educators, but I do think that it is growing its homeschool and hybrid school customer base. And so I know that most likely a lot of the resources that you have already made for public school and private school, traditional school, could also work in the hybrid or homeschool setting. But I do think that hybrid and homeschool teachers will be searching specifically for things that are for hybrid or homeschool, because of course there's going to be differences, even like saying that this includes tips for homeschool teachers because they don't always have a traditional education background. I think that's going to be really, really big. Let me just see some other like small trends that I am seeing. Open education resources. This one was really, really interesting to me. So open education resources are free, openly licensed teaching and learning materials that anyone can use. And schools are using these a lot because they are free. What does that mean for you? Because obviously you don't want to list everything for free, but you want to kind of mimic what these resources are allowing teachers to do. And the biggest thing that I have found, well, there's two actually. Being editable is big with open education resources, so you can fit them to your needs, and having differentiated levels. So while you don't want to list all of your resources for free, starting or editing your old resources to allow them to be editable and including differentiated levels that are already done so that teachers don't have to go in and edit it necessarily. I think focusing on both of those things will be really important and will also allow you to kind of compete with those OER resources. Because I don't know, as an educator, if you have ever used OER resources. I have, and they are usually not visually appealing. There's usually a lot of mistakes because they are free and there's no one like going behind and checking to make sure that there's no mistakes. They just don't look as nice as a professional TPT resource. So if you can kind of pull in some of the highlights, the selling points of those OER resources into your paid resource, I think that would be a really good idea. Another thing that I think might help you compete with these OER resources is to have some high quality resources for free in your store that lead to other paid resources. So think about your bestseller, and maybe you're going to make that bestseller into a product line. Make one of the resources in that product line free. And I'm not talking about like having a sample. I don't like when TPTers do that. Like they say, oh, this is my biggest seller and I'm just going to give them a sample for free. I do understand if like their biggest seller is a curriculum and so they give a sample of their curriculum away. Obviously you don't want a whole curriculum for free. But like for me, my notes and worksheet sets are my biggest sellers. And so I have 3 to 4 really good notes and worksheet sets in my store for free that are like the full thing. It's not just a sample. It's like you're getting the whole thing. Do I get a lot of just freebie seekers downloading those? Sure. But I also get people that may have been a freebie seeker. They see how high quality my notes and worksheet sets are. They see that I offer video lessons, and then they are like, okay, this is really good. I want to pay for more of that. So offering some really good stuff for free that will maybe pull in those freebie seekers, but then maybe you can convert those freebie seekers into, paying teachers. Okay, so those are the trends. I think I gave you more than 10 that I am seeing for 2026 on Teachers Pay Teachers. You don't have to do all of these. I don't want you to stress you out about, new legislation and things like that, but just things to be aware of and maybe some ideas for you for new products for 2026. I hope you guys have a fabulous 2026. Happy New Year. I am wishing you just the best year for your family, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.